am Tammy Beilstein. Welcome to Tammy's Window on Calaveras. I have with me tonight Mike Taylor from the Sierra Lodestar. This guy, I love ya, and you've been around for so long. I think everybody is going to know who you are.
Yeah, or they've seen this mug somewhere and they can't remember where.
I'm so happy that you were on this show with me. We had about 2 minutes to talk before he came on tonight, and we were remembering that it was years and years ago when you were on What's She Up To Now, and I interviewed you out at Pause.
Out at Pause, yeah. In fact, I have one of the editions that I've done for Pause with Sierra Lodestar here. But yeah, that's part of what I love about this area, and kind of what you and I do is we're out and about in the community, and I don't necessarily have to be the center of that attention, but it's always nice to be at those events when those things are going on.
I love seeing you at all these different things. I mean, he's the nicest guy, you guys. So nice. If you do ever see him out someplace, make sure you go and introduce yourself and tell him how much you love his work, because he's so cool. So you've been with the Sierra Lodestar all that time? You haven't
Since
juggled
it
around
started, yes, that's right.
When did it start?
This is our 5th year. Gosh, are we in our 6th? I think we're in our 6th. It was one of those, if you build it, they will come kind of things. We knew that going into it, because I've been with the Calaveras First Company, which puts out the Calaveras Enterprise, and that's what we call our subscription title. And we wanted to, and it wasn't all my idea. We were all kind of thinking, how do we draw the mother lode together? Because especially sitting here in Calaveras County, we're kind of equidistant from all the cool places in the mother lode and the Sierra.
You said equidistant.
Equidistant. I'm one of those writer types, yeah.
Good word. Go ahead.
My high school English teachers would be so proud I used a word with more than 3 syllables. And so I kind of said, hey, as I'm traveling around going to live theater shows, into Sonora and into Jackson and even at the time into Sutter Creek, I said, I'm seeing people, especially from Calaveras, are crossing these rivers to go to these entertainments in other counties. Because
we are a party people.
We are. We like to hit the road. We're not afraid of that. And if it's a great show, we'll go see it. So I kind of said, we know that people will cross those lines. Let's eliminate those lines. And as we started talking with people about what we wanted to do with Sierra Lodestar, it was a case of, okay, the rivers go away. So the lines between Amador, Calaveras, and Tuolumne, people have noticed, are pretty much gone in Sierra Lodestar. We have 3 specific columns, one of which I write myself, but we have 3 columns in each weekly edition that talk about these specific counties. There's Amador in Action, written by Scott Thomas Anderson, who's grew up in Amador County. I do the Calaveras Sluice Box, and I more or less say I grew up in Calaveras County. We moved here, my family moved here when I was 10. I moved away for about 1.5 years, 2 years out of high school, and realized I really didn't want to live in a big city. And really what it was well, there's all that stuff to do. There wasn't the connection that the community has here. You know this, that this community, and what I'm most proud of in people around here, is when that flag goes up that somebody needs a hand, someone is there to lend that hand.
That's right.
And so, as part of putting Sierra Lodestar together, it was the mindset of, okay, it's entertaining. What's entertaining? Where do we go for it? And then obviously we're eyeball deep in history here. You can't walk across the street and not trip over something historic. It seems like just about every single town. And the older I've gotten, and I hate to admit this, but the older I've gotten, the more I've gotten to appreciate that history as a young person. And I think, and I notice that each year, I mean, I've been with the Enterprise since 1998, actually.
Wow,
Yeah, and covering...
They must treat you well.
Okay. It's an interesting business. Print journalism, for a long time has been that grape that's waiting to fall off the vine. Everybody thinks it's dying or it's dead.
I was going to ask you about that later.
And the giant newspapers, the New York Times and the LA Times and the Washington Post, those giant entities have struggled with, how do we cover the news? Everybody wants the news, immediately, and they want it in that little teeny tiny, and I'm personally, I can't get into a screen this big. I want the giant screen at my home. That's how I'm going to watch my news, my movies.
Or the paper in your hand.
Yeah, or the newspaper in my hand. And actually, community journalism, which is what we pride ourselves on at the Calaveras Enterprise, is about the newspaper in your hand.
Yeah.
Well, yes, we have breaking news online at the websites and that kind of thing. It's about telling people's stories in print. And let's be honest, we have a larger senior community up here in the Mother Lode, and those folks still want a piece of newspaper in their hand. They're not too into clicking and surfing and that kind of thing. And even if they are, they still appreciate that piece of print in their hand.
Some people just love the smell, the feel, the smell, the look of a newspaper. And you know what else I love about the newspaper? I do love having online news, and I get my Fox News alerts on my phone, which I can't live without. But one of the things I love about newspapers is when someone I love is in them, I can cut that out and actually have something to hold on to, mail off to the grandparents, or put in a scrapbook. It is different from printing it off of
I was just going to say,
screen.
it's not the same printed off on an 8.5 by 11 sheet where it's all sort of neat and tidy and pasted there.
I like all of the ads that were around it, and who else was in the paper. I love that old kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not old. I mean, it's current, but it feels like it's going out.
Let's say time-honored.
Yes. You're so good with words. I use like the same 3 words all the time. Cool. Awesome.
Oh, well, yeah. I get stuck on cool once in a while, and I have to. Actually, at my desk at the office, I have a little sheet. There's not a lot of them on there, but they're little, I don't want to call them catchphrases, but they're little things that I caught myself using.
Right.
And so now I avoid them like the plague, as they say, because I don't want to get repetitive in that kind of thing. I've written an awful lot of theater reviews. I look back on, more than 10 years of it.
Oh,
that's a lot of live shows. And I've even seen, like right now, Sierra Repertory Theater is doing Sound of Music. I think this is their 3rd production of that show that I've gotten to see over these years.
Enjoyed each of them, and how do you word that? Well, to make it sound any differently.
And oddly, or interestingly maybe, is each production is a little bit different. In fact, the production that's going right now is so good because the children in the cast are incredible.
Oh, neat.
I mean, you have a fantastic woman playing Maria, and of course Captain Von Trapp, but the 7 kids, they sailed under a lucky star or something, and this cast of kids is terrific. And as soon as Maria starts singing and dancing with them, you feel like you want to join them on stage. It's really something.
That is so neat. And their parents and their grandparents are going to want to cut out your article about them and put it in their scrapbook.
That's it.
That is so neat. So you've been doing this since '98, you said?
Long time, yes. In '98, actually, it actually gets into the history of newspapers in Calaveras County. Not trying to place myself in sort of any kind of echelon or anything.
No, I want to hear though.
But John and Eleanor Peterson owned the Calaveras Californian and the Prospect. And they also put out, I forgot what the title was in the West County, and they had the Mountain Echo up the Highway 4 corridor. It was kind of a mailer.
Yeah.
And their youngest son, Ed, it's all his fault that I got into newspapers to begin with. Because actually, way back in about 1985 or 86, I meant to, before I came here tonight, to dig into, because I have a binder that has the first 3 Mr. Mike's Mondo videos that were ever published. That was my first...
Mr. Mike's Mondo video.
Mr. Mike's Mondo video. It was a Saturday Night Live skit that Ed Peterson, John and Eleanor's youngest son, thought, Mike, you watch a lot of movies, you should do a video review column. I said, okay, what are we going to call it? And he says, Mr. Mike's Mondo Video. Okay. And, I didn't know. And... But my mindset even with reviewing live theater is the same as it is with watching a movie. I paid you, in the case of a movie, let's say $10 to see your movie.
Yeah.
Or I paid you $30 to watch your live theater show.
Right.
Did you entertain me? did I get $30 back? Is the selfish way I look at it. And so looking at it from an entertainment, then you sort of start digging into, were they trying to, form an opinion? Were they trying to make you think something, or was it just let's go sing and dance and enjoy it?
Yeah.
And I don't like digging too much into that depth or into the meat. It's wonderful to see a show that makes you think that way, but I don't think the review needs to be, well, I think they were going for the human condition, to me that's not that important.
Yeah.
It's that conversation on the way back in the car where everybody in the car can't stop talking about how fun that was or how intriguing it was when that character did that or whatever it was. So Ed Peterson had me writing some columns, and I did that for a number of years, just kind of off and on, and was basically actually like what we call stringers for Sierra Lodestar. I was just paid by the column inch for whatever I wrote.
Oh.
And then in 97, they needed somebody to sell ads for them, and they hired me to do that, and I sold ads for the Mountain Echo on Highway 4.
I bet you were so good at that.
It was fun, yeah, and what I really enjoyed with that was being able to walk in and talk to a business owner who, just thinks, and this is something that I talk with people quite a bit about, is running an ad in a newspaper, especially in this, like we say, old-fashioned kind of thing. Excuse me, time-honored.
Time-honored.
But I'm spending money on this. No, you're investing in your business.
Right.
Because if you've created the ad correctly, it attracts people to your business.
Yes.
I heard a great story from a man who worked for McClatchy newspapers and was in their advertising department for years, and he had a car dealer who had told him, the ads I'm running with you aren't doing me any good. And this salesman said, what do you mean? And he says, nobody's coming in because of that ad. I'm, paying you for a full page every week, and I'm not getting anything in return. And the salesman said, do me a favor. Give me one column inch, which is, about this wide by about an inch, in your next week's ad. Just give me that space, and that's all I'm going to say. And the guy said, okay, whatever. Well, a week later, on the Saturday, the salesman guy is out on the golf course. It's his day off, and he gets a phone call. What am I going to do with all these cats? What he did, he talked to the animal control in the county where this car dealer was, but in that one-by-one space, he put, bring us your kittens that need homes.
Oh, wow.
So what he showed the car dealer was people are reading the ad.
Yeah.
It's not my fault that your salespeople can't convert all of these bodies on your lot into sold automobiles. But look at all these kittens. People are reading the ad. So that was and that in my head showed me that, that one little square in that big ad makes a huge difference. One of the best advertisements.
The story I thought you were going to tell is the guy who stops running his ad because he can't afford it and all of that, and then when his business goes under, he lists an ad that it's for sale. That's
right, and Mark Twain has a famous quote about that, and I can never remember it when I need to in a moment like this, but it's the two times people advertise or when they're opening their business and when they're closing it.
It's true, and it's sad.
Yes, it is.
It shouldn't work like that.
And so where I've looked in my advertising life, I really enjoyed having someone spend that relatively small amount of money and get such a great response.
Yeah.
There was a dog groomer way back in Valley Springs who had just started out. She was, very much that struggling new business. Typical kind of Calaveras County or Mother Lode. A mom and pop sort of a business.
Sure.
It was herself and one high school girl who was helping her out when she needed help, which wasn't very often because she wasn't that busy. And we were about a month and a half away from Thanksgiving. So it was late October. And I asked her, I said, I don't know anything about grooming dogs, but what do dogs need this time of year? And she said, well, if you don't get the undercoat all combed out now as their winter coat is coming in, they're going to get matted and they're going to be all gross.
Yeah.
And I said, so Fido will miss Thanksgiving. And she kind of looked at me with that quizzical look in her eyes. Because my wheels were turning, and the ad that we built was only the size of a business card.
Yeah.
But it said, and it had the family sitting at the Thanksgiving table and the dog looking in from the window.
Oh.
And it said, "Is Fido going to miss the meal?" And then Acme Dog Grooming, or whatever the name of the company was. So that ad came out on a Tuesday. I went into her place on a Thursday, and she had more dogs than she knew what to do with.
That's awesome.
And I thought, you know, so just because of an idea I had, this business is getting successful.
So when someone goes to place an ad with you, they don't have to have it all written up with a picture and the wording and exactly what they want. And is that included in the price of the ad?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And that's part of what our ad staff does is helps you come up with a plan that, you know, and it's usually seasonal depending on the business, but you know, what do you have to sell in springtime?
Yeah.
What do you have to sell in summertime, Mr. Business Owner? And what do you have too much that you need to get rid of? You know, that kind of thing. And that would be where I would start in talking with somebody. And it kind of depends. If it's a brand new business, then your mindset is, we have to let the world know we're here.
Yeah. So for a brand new business, you recommend they go large first and then shrink down once people recognize their logo and everything?
Really, I'm not one who gets too locked into the size of the ad.
Okay.
The thing I would suggest that people watch out for, and I'm not going to pick up an issue and go through any examples.
That one,
but and I'll say it's a joke around the office, but it's putting 10 pounds of sugar in a 5-pound bag.
Oh, yeah.
Well, in fact, we don't even have 5-pound bags of sugar anymore. They're down to 4. But it's putting way too much in that space. So whether you're buying a full page or you're buying, you know, just a little small announcement type notice, don't put too much in there.
Okay.
Because it just becomes a fog in people's brains.
And you help people decide what's important and what people want to see and don't need to see.
And so it's a matter
for people
of,
who might be intimidated.
And really, it's you have to learn to edit.
Yeah.
And that's tough to do. A lot of business owners, you know, oh, we have this and we have this and we have that and we have that and we have this and we have this. Well, that's great. But if we try and put all that in one ad, it looks like a hodgepodge.
Yeah.
Let's do one ad that says we have these. And then next week, let's do and we have these. And then the week after, let's do we have these.
Does that count as a series? Can people buy a series of ads and they can change them?
Yep, they can. Yeah, there's all kinds of different plans and possibilities for them.
I'm thinking about while you're speaking. I had tried to help make an ad up, something that I thought we would use for some hospice event or whatever. We had all the things that we thought were most important, and we forgot to put like the phone number, or, you know, just our practice one, or something so basic. And it's like, well, we know it. So everybody should know it.
And I run into that all the time because I get so many emails from folks who are throwing a yard sale for the Lions Club. And they'll say, you know, it's in the parking lot on that street. What parking lot? Where? You know.
But you get so focused on all the little, making sure you hit all the other little points that you sometimes forget the most basic info. Well, so thank goodness people like you will go through and edit everything.
well, we remind, and a lot of times, especially up here, because we get so familiar with places, you know, oh, the San Andreas Town Hall, it's right over there. I don't know the name of the street, you know. And what I've had to kind of work with people on is, I need the physical address because we have to pretend that nobody knows where they're going.
Yes.
And that way, because what we found, especially with Sierra Lodestar, and this is actually one of the things that I'm most proud of with Sierra Lodestar, it's become kind of a go-to guide for visiting this part of the Mother Lode. And I have seen people at restaurants who work in the restaurants walk up to folks who they know are tourists and say, here, you need one of these.
Nice.
This will tell you what's going on this weekend. And I actually get more emails from people who live in the East Bay than I do from people who live in the Mother Lode.
Really?
I get emails from them that say, gosh, I wish we had a paper like this down here, where it's all kind of right here. And I've had some people say, you know, it's all the good news. Well, that's a good way to look at it. You know, it's not the accidents, and it's not the depression of governmental cuts and school cuts and you know, highway crashes and that kind of stuff.
It's nice to see what kind of fundraisers are going along.
It's just here's the good stuff, here's the fun, and my least favorite thing, and you and I have joked about this before, but is hearing people up here say, oh, well, there's nothing to do up here.
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh, no. Don't get me started on that.
So much to do.
Take a look at the calendar and you're going to see 6 events on Saturday that if you had a clone or an evil step twin or whatever, you're going to struggle to get to those 6 events.
Being around here, they are all going to be either free or low price normally.
Yep, that's right.
And you're going to see people that you know there.
Or they're fundraisers for entities that you really want to support. So you end up having to kind of cut and split your time, and so I've gotten in the habit of telling people, just take a look at the calendar and pick out those 2 or 3 things that sound fun, and you can fill a whole Saturday. Load the kids in the car and go up to Big Trees for the beginning of Family Day. Which is coming up later in August, But you can hit that fun stuff there. All it's going to cost you is getting the car into Big Trees, which is $10. And then enjoy that, and then on your way down the hill, stop at this event in Murphy's, or make sure to pull over in Angel's Camp because this thing is going on at Utica Park, and those kinds of things string together, and before you know it, after you stop for an afternoon late lunch or an early dinner.
At one of the places that is advertising
at one of the
in
advertisers.
paper.
But you have this whole Saturday that turned out to be a nice visit in the Mother Road.
Now, you mentioned the calendar of events. How far in advance do people need to get events to you for the calendar, or to maybe hopefully have some little kind of blurb?
That's a good question, and I go round and round with it. I try not to have the calendar, the happenings calendar in Sierra Lodestar. I try not to have it look the same every week.
Right.
And the reason I say that like that is because if we look at this week's and I show you all that's in it, and then next week all we take off is the 7 days that have passed, you're going to see a lot of repeats.
Oh, right.
And it's going to look like the same calendar that you saw last week. So generally in Sierra Lodestar, the calendar only reaches out about 2 weeks.
Okay.
But that's just because that's all we have space for.
All right.
We
and how often does the
we come out
out
every week. It comes out on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. It's printed.
Oh, you already said that. I'm sorry.
No, we didn't, but that's okay.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. It's actually printed down in the valley on Saturdays, and then it's delivered up here, and then we actually, as we're distributing Tuesday's copy of the Calaveras Enterprise, that's when we start getting Sierra Lodestar out, and then we have drivers who go out into Amador and Tuolumne counties and distribute the copies, and it's between Tuesday and Wednesday that they actually hit the street. They're dated Wednesday.
Okay, that's a huge area you cover. How many people read this?
It's a big area. We print about 20,000 copies a week, and if you get into the newspaper world, they talk about each copy of a newspaper gets like 2.2 readers or something like that. So
I would
this
think even
copy,
more, because when you go to a restaurant or a fast food place and you pick it up, you read it, and you leave it there for the next person.
That's right. That's right. So multiple copies like that, or even the copy that goes home. Mom and dad might look at it, and then the son and the daughter might look at it, depending on what they're doing.
I'll go to Round Table in Valley Springs, and they have a huge stack of them when they come in, and I will take a look at it. But remember, I have one at home, so that's what I do. I look at it there while I'm relaxing with my family and really pigging out, because I love pepperoni pizza.
There you go.
And I will look through the whole thing, and I'll leave it there, go home, and I will show my family or whoever, we need to do this. It looks so cool. So you guys see a lot of people. Now, when you mentioned the Bay Area people interested in your paper, is this online so they can also catch it online if they're out of town? All
we do with it online, and it's kind of weird, and it's that next kind of growth hump that we need to get over with it. Right now, we post it in what we call a reader, which basically what you're going to do is you're going to get a virtual version of this. So you're going to actually be kind of clicking through the pages and looking that way. And you go to CalaverasEnterprise.com and click on Entertainment, and Sierra Lodestar comes up, and that takes you right to that reader. And basically you see what are called the PDFs, the documents that are these pages. That's actually the documents that we send to the printer to have them print this up.
And the calendar, the ad, everything exactly like it would be in here. Everything is there.
It's the complete issues. And you talk about people holding on to these. where I really realized we were onto something with this was within the first year of us doing it. And I'm not necessarily a pessimist or negative, but I'm usually the guy who's waiting for the other shoe to drop. You know, they told us they love it, but you know, let's see in a couple of weeks what they really think. Well, I realized we got about 3/4 of the way through the first year, and I had 2 different people tell me that, oh, I've saved every issue.
Wow.
I've had several people in all 3 counties tell me I've saved every single issue. Because when Grandma or the grandkids or whoever comes to visit at Christmas time, they pull out that issue from 4 weeks ago or from 2 years ago and dig out that thing, and we should go here because Grandma really is interested in the history of the Chinese in California. And so, and that's, so again, with that history, we've been able to devote some space to several different sort of little niches in the history of this area. You know, we've done the Chinese, we've done the Spanish, we've done the American Indians, we've, you know, the Europeans, the Celtics, you know, just kind of each little group of people who came to this place as the gold rush attracted, you know, the world and everybody.
So your article, gosh, we only have a few minutes left. Your articles that you write are mainly about the history, or do you write about upcoming events with a separate
We go
article?
all over the place. We have columnists in Sierra Lodestar who write about everything from wine to cooking to fishing. That's one of the popular columns. I've had people who you wouldn't think would read this kind of magazine, you know, and they'll say, oh no, I read that fishing column every week, and actually I end up reading the whole issue.
Oh, neat.
And it's, you know, thank you very much.
So
I
there
really
are
appreciate
people that are writers who cover so many different areas. It's not like if I'm having an event and have a press release, if I sent it to you, does that get printed, or someone rewrites it and just makes a little blurb?
It kind of depends. Usually what I do is I tell people, email me and give me all the information you can. Even give me too much.
Okay.
And then that's my job as the editor. I can, if I have to, and I can only get it into the calendar, I'll make sure that folks get the information they need in that calendar listing. If I've got the space and you're having an artist reception at your wine tasting room or your gallery or whatever, and I have the space for it, I'll get that in there too, so that folks know what's going on.
I'm so glad you do that and you look out for everyone. Because to you it's probably easy. You do this all the time, but for those of us who don't, I mean, it's a whole different world, and it makes people nervous because what we're doing is so important to us, and we want it done just right. I would be so comfortable handing it off to you.
And I tell people, don't think that you have to send something in like it's come from Mark Twain himself. You know, just send it in, and if I have questions, I'll get in touch with you. And, you know, hey, what is this about, you know, and why are you raising money for this, or whatever the issue happens to be. And it's all about that.
It looks like we are out of time.
A half-hour flies, doesn't
it? Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Please come back.
Oh, anytime.
Oh, cool. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time on Tammy's Window on Calaveras.